So they built the 500E, a factory-sanctioned Autobahn battering ram with a 5-liter V8. The kind of presence that made BMW M5 drivers reevaluate their life choices. Naturally, they called their neighbor Porsche, who at the time was so broke they were taking odd jobs like a college kid between semesters. And it was a logistical
that is crazy
disaster. Hey guys, welcome to Overcrest. I'm Kris.
And I'm Jake.
And I'm starting to realize that I have a problem. I'm in this.
Just now you're realizing this.
My wife and I want to buy a house, and we're playing this game of how much money can we not spend.
Uh-huh. Is this difficult for you?
It's so hard. It's so hard. Jake, is so hard. That's why I just bought a car and I'm flying.
I was like,
yeah, wait,
how is this going? Okay, yeah, you might.
So I looked through like tons of ads, and we'll get into the car and stuff like that in a little bit. I have some pictures of it, but I was looking at this conversion chart, or a table rather, of when you look at an ad. There's all these. It's almost like a house, where if the house is cute, that means it's small. Or if it's charming, the layout might be weird. You know what I mean? Like they have these words that don't really make
so you're
sense.
talking like in any sort of a for sale advertisement, right?
Yes.
Okay, I got it. I'm going to play Kris Cool right now, and I'm going to bring this all back to like, I don't know.
Bring it around. Bring it back.
So this is, I'm trying to put an analogy together. This is like saying a girl has a great personality because she's not like super attractive, right?
Yeah.
Is that where we're going with this?
You just didn't want to say fat chicks have great personality. I get it.
I was trying to think of a way to not be quite as crass as you would
that's
normally.
all right.
Okay, so we're talking about when you're like buying a house or a car or anything. These are the like little metaphors, or I don't even know what you'd call them.
It's called lipstick on a pig, Jake.
The misnomers, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I want to run through these because they're pretty funny. These are ones on how to interpret like a used car, or a classic.
I love
car.
it. Yeah.
Rare model means nobody liked them when they were.
Yeah.
Nobody liked them when they were new.
They didn't sell.
They didn't sell. Nobody liked them when they were. Older restoration. Can't tell it's been restored.
Yep.
Oh, that's usually needs engine work. It's been frozen for 30 years.
Yeah,
basically.
basically.
The motor. It does not turn over. Uses no oil. That means there's no oil left to throw out of the engine. No rust. Body and fenders missing. I have found no rust in my experience to be a lie. Unless a car has literally sat inside. Even California cars.
What about rust-free, Kris? Rust-free.
Yeah. There's always, you got to make sure you look underneath the car. Rough. It's rough. It's too bad to tell a lie about. That's how
that one's just as it is.
One owner means he's never been able to sell it in the entire time that he's owned it. No time to complete the project. Either means you can't find the parts or the guy's broke.
Yeah, it's just hopeless at that point, right?
Lost interest means I can't figure it out, or I'm broke, or lost interest in the project is always a really funny one, man. Because like, why did you lose interest? And it's always like the easiest thing ever, too. It's always like lost interest.
Yeah. I have all the parts, all parts included, right?
They're
That's
in the
another
trunk.
one. All parts included.
I had it running.
Super. What about Easy Fix? Is that one on here?
Easy Fix, no problem. Just needs a head gasket.
Needs
a head gasket. Easy Fix. My loss is your gain.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Low mileage on a classic car means it's probably on its third time around that odometer.
Yeah, or the odometer just stopped. Yeah.
Well, it's the 5-digit odometer. They only go up to 99,999. What was the thought with that? Did nobody drive more than 100,000 miles?
No, the cars weren't meant to last that long.
Man, all right. Many new parts means it's broken down many, many times. Clean means it sat out in the rain yesterday. Best offer is just make an offer and tell me what I expect to get. Always driven slowly. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I feel like we need to comment if it's just best offer, and that's not, if best offer is preceded by a price, an asking price, that's appropriate.
Yes.
$5,000 or best offer. If it's just best offer, there's nothing more frustrating than engaging with a seller that just says for sale best offer.
What is, Jake, walk me through making an offer etiquette. Who makes the first offer and who is responsible?
Did you know there's actually a legal precedent for this? Like,
No,
legally, there is a way to sell or purchase a good. And so it is that there needs to be a asking price, legally speaking, I believe.
Oh.
This is going way back to like business law 101.
Okay.
And then when you make an offer, that is a legal offer that is on the table until it is either rejected or accepted. Like this is like very like, you know, straight-laced if you were following every legal precedent rule of that fact. And there's some other weird idiosyncrasies with it.
I don't think that applies on Facebook Marketplace.
No,
Jake.
it certainly does not. But
I don't think it
here is the etiquette.
Here's the etiquette.
Go. Yes.
Okay, let's start this. I've got a car, $5,000 for best offer. I've just
first of all, number one, underline, bold, all caps. Do not negotiate or try to make an offer without seeing the car in person. That frustrates me so freaking much. Hey, dude, I got 3,800. Will you take it? That car won't go for more than 3. What's your problem? $2,000 right now, cash. Chris. It's cash. Come on, buddy.
It's cash.
Cash.
As
opposed to
Taco Bell gifts.
Yes. Damn it! I hate you. This is how you know we've been friends too long. Okay.
Man, you're clipping a little bit when you yell. You might want to just back it off.
Really
back it off of
here. All right, here we go.
How do we both think of Taco Bell gift certificates?
I don't know if this has been like a running joke for us, but
oh my god.
Yes, so it's obviously it's going to be cash. You're not going to accept anything other than cash.
If it's best offer, it's obviously negotiable. You don't have to ask. So your message is, hey, I'm interested in your car. When can I come take a look at it?
Yes.
And then
100%.
when you go there, the onus is on you to make the offer. You don't ask the person,
100%.
What's the least amount you take? I saw you're at 5. What's the least amount you'll take? That's wrong.
As much as you'll give. Like, that's so dumb. Yes.
Yeah, you cannot do that. It is your responsibility to make an offer. 100%. It's yours. So you come and you go, you know, it's got however you want to negotiate. Yeah, it's got a couple things wrong with it. I don't know.
Should we go through this? Should we go through?
I don't want to go too
negotiation practice. Well, you're selling the car, Chris, right?
It's okay, I'm selling the car. What car? What am I selling? What is it?
I have no idea. What's $5,000?
It's a B3 Passat VR6.
Okay,
that's what I'm selling.
I'm interested.
Yeah,
okay.
5-speed.
So here's how we do this properly.
I message
you. Yes, I message you to come take a look at it. Perhaps I even say, feel free to give me a call, or can I text you? Because I want to bring things off Messenger as soon as possible. That shows, one, that I'm serious, and two, that now there is some type of there's skin in the game when you're actually talking to someone.
Phone call. It's a phone call. If you're not willing to call me, you're not interested.
No, and anytime I list anything for sale, as soon as they message me, I say, here's my number, give me a call. Because guess what? 90% of the people that are like, is this available?
Don't call.
Aren't calling because they're not actually serious.
They don't.
So 100% that's a way to create kind of like a barrier to.
And you can weed out too, like if you don't like the story the seller is telling you, you can just be like, you know what, man, this is not for me. And you can save everybody a lot of time just by the phone call. Because there's always a story. All these old cars have stories. There's always a story. And there's always something wrong with it.
Yep.
I don't care how nice someone says something is. There's always a story. Okay. Always.
I love this. This entire episode could just be the correct process of going to buy a car, which I know it's not going to be. But, okay, so first thing you do, contact them. Can I talk to you? We talked on the phone. Set up a time. Great. Let's go meet. Some people, how do you feel about this? Meeting in public place only?
All right. I'll look for something else.
Really?
That's
a turnoff right away?
That's a turnoff for you. I want to see, like, when I go up to someone's house, I look at the house.
Yep.
I look at everything. I want to know the state of this individual. It's almost like when I go over to drop my kids off at a new friend's at the same for the first time.
Yeah.
I kind of go, I'm looking in their house. Maybe I go into the foyer. I look around. Is this place a shit show? Is it nice?
Oh, they have a foyer. Well, I mean, that's right there. That's telling you something.
It could be.
All right. This reminds me of a story, and I love this. From way back when my dad's good friend, I always looked up to the guy. He had a rental little duplex, like a really crappy duplex in the middle of nowhere or whatever. When he was younger, that was kind of, I don't know, his one investment thing that I always was like, I should get a duplex to rent out. That'd be great. Anyways, he was telling me this is before internet and everything else. So someone would come to look at the apartment. or the place and he say, oh, shoot, you know what? I left the application out in my car. He did that every single time. Why? Because he went out to look at their car. He goes, it didn't matter what they are driving. It was, is there trash everywhere inside? If it is, then I'm not going to rent it to them. But if the car is, even if there is stuff inside, it's just how you keep your things is an extension of how you're going to treat property. Right. And so he goes, if I liked how their car looked, or if they didn't have a car or whatever, you know, you're sizing them up via that. He'd go, yeah, we don't need to fill out the paperwork. You're good. Yeah.
Nobody tells you that everything that they suck at in life on the first date. You don't meet the first date and you go, you know, I don't brush my teeth on the weekends. I leave the toilet lit up. I throw my towels on the floor. I save the dishes till the next morning. That's not how you start out a first date. The first date, you're wearing your nines and you're telling everybody all the best stories about yourself. You know, and nobody leads with the bad thing. And it's just like cars. When you show up to look at a car, they've washed it, they vacuumed it out. You know,
what if they didn't?
You know, here's the thing. I would rather see a dirty engine compartment, for one, that hasn't been cleaned off. I would rather see
all of the armor all everywhere.
I would rather see the car in the state that it's lived in.
Yeah.
I can clean it. I can wash it myself. I'd rather see the state that the car existed in.
You'd rather see the accurate representation.
Yeah, I'd like to see the accurate representation.
I'm coming to look at your Passat. I show up.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, dude?
I have questions that may seem dumb, Kris, but to me, they're very telling. Okay. For one, how long have you had the car? Some people are like, what does it matter? Who cares? I don't know. Why? Because I want to know, do you know about the car, first of all?
Yes.
Are you able to actually tell me about this car? Have you had it that long? You know, what have you done to it? What is the history of it? Who did you buy it from?
And none of this stuff is necessarily game changers either. You're just trying to collect information.
Yeah, you want to paint a picture of what the vehicle is. And as you're doing this is small talk, by the way, so that when you're looking at the car, it's not just awkward that he's standing there, the seller, while you're trying to look and see how much rust is there in the subframe, you know, and how terrible is it? You should maybe open the hood and see, has the oil ever been changed?
Yep.
You know,
you can. I mean, I don't want to get into
but it's
checkpoints.
Just I once bought a car without even test driving it. I'm realizing, like, I made an offer before test driving it, which is
me too, and I'm going to get it on Thursday.
Oh, good. Yeah, there you go.
I've done this many times because I've done it many times, countless times, just because you fly somewhere and get something.
Yeah, that's just it. If it's, you know, you can't see it in person, then of course.
My question for that is, look, I can't be there to see the car ahead of time. It's very important that you tell me if anything is going to surprise me when I come to look at this car. Is anything going to surprise me that might send me home or make me upset when I get there? I said, put yourself in my shoes. Just tell me. It's better that you just tell me if I'm flying across the country to get this. And there's been a couple times where like, oh yeah, there's a ding on the thing or whatever. Most of the time it's nothing serious. But I always like to ask that question.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, I have no idea where we were going.
Yeah, I don't know. So you can just, just don't. Anyway, okay.
Buying a car.
Yeah, blah blah blah. Let's just tell me about FCP Euro.
Yeah, so when you do buy the rusty Passat that clearly is going to need everything, and it has deferred maintenance, hasn't been done in years, you can go to FCP Euro, which is an online retailer of European OEM genuine aftermarket and performance parts from BMW, Porsche, Volvo, Volkswagen, catalog, BMW to Porsche, Volvo, Volkswagen, and more. I kind of it was one big manufacturer, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was a conglomerate.
Yeah.
Their catalog is a one-stop shop with over 275,000 unique products, including expert assembled kits to make shopping simpler. Volvo is not German, by the way. I did say Volvo.
That's true.
They have actively been building out their Volkswagen, Audi, and Porsche catalogs, which are, of course, all German. And every product they sell is backed by a lifetime replacement guarantee, even wear items like wiper blades, brake pads, and oil filters. They have their new distribution center on the West Coast in Mesa, Arizona. So now they're shipping from both coasts, serving most of the country in 3 days or less. Check them out today at fcpeuro.com and take advantage of that free shipping on any order over $49.
All right. I also want to take a second to thank the Drivers Club members. There's a bunch of new people signing up to support the show. Thank you very much. We really appreciate you. We just sent an email out to all the Drivers Club members, giving them early access to the Overcrest store, which is relaunching. Gave them a discount, gave them early
100%.
access. There's always a good reason to sign up
You
other
too
than
could
feel
have
good
had
stuff.
that,
But
but
you could have if you
no.
weren't sleeping.
Nope.
It's only $5. $5 a month. Overcrestproductions.com/Drivers Club and feel good about yourself for helping your buddy Jake and Kris pay for Mr.
They're
Producer
one
to help
person
produce
now.
this episode.
They're buddy. They are one person.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
how you
All right,
phrased it.
Jake.
Yes.
The year is 1977. I'm going to tell you a story.
I
I'm
like
going to tell
it.
you a story. Let me paint the
Okay.
picture for you. The year is 1977, and outside of the walls of a room full of engineers in Stuttgart, the world is changing fast. You know, one of my problems I have when I read this stuff is I start to go too fast, and I know you do the same thing. Just tell me if I'm going too fast.
All right. So Stuttgart 77.
West Germany hums with post-war prosperity, but the Cold War looms large. The Berlin Wall still slices the country in two. The Soviets have missiles pointed west. The Americans have missiles pointed east. And everyone is pretending not to think about the worst case scenario. Somewhere out in the Atlantic, NATO warships stalk Soviet submarines. They're scheming, and the Americans are building tanks. But inside the room, men are worrying about a tank of their very own. The men at the table of this room aren't politicians or generals. They aren't thinking about diplomacy or nuclear deterrence. They're engineers, and they have a problem. They had built a tank of their very own. It was a nearly perfect car, a machine so overbuilt that it's hurting sales. Owners aren't replacing them. Taxi companies are just rebuilding them. The damn things just won't die. And now, sitting in this room, they have a new mission: build its successor. It has to be stronger, faster, and more advanced. But it also has to last just as long, if not longer. The usual pressures, cost cutting, manufacturing efficiency, planned obsolescence, don't exist here. Not yet. This is still a brand at its peak, still an engineering company first, a car company second. What they're about to create will go down in history. An outside world doesn't even know it yet. Wow, that was a bad sentence. The outside world doesn't even know it yet.
Okay.
Mercedes-Benz was known for making quality cars. Yeah, the often overlooked, everybody's like, oh, where's Mercedes-Benz made? Stuttgart. Everybody thinks about Porsche.
I didn't even,
Yeah, that's where they're located. Mercedes-Benz was known for making quality cars, but in the late 1970s, one of their models had become so legendary, so utterly bulletproof, that it threatened the entire business model. It was reliable to a fault, lasting so long that the people who bought them simply never needed another car.
So did that one have a 5 or 6 digit odometer? That's the question.
They had a 6-digit odometer.
See, yeah, they knew.
How else are we supposed to keep track that it got to 1 million miles?
Exactly.
The company was at a crossroads. They could dial things back, cut costs, and start building cars like everyone else. Planned obsolescence, cheaper materials, and shorter lifespans. Or they could double down. The result of that decision would take 5 years, actually 7 years, millions of man hours, and more money than anyone would ever admit. And it would go on to change the way cars were built forever. And yet today, you're not going to find it headlining car shows. It doesn't get celebrated in commercials. It's not a name whispered in hushed reverence like Ferrari or Porsche. But maybe it should be. This is the story of one of the greatest cars ever built. All right, let's go back, Jake, way back, even farther, to an era where I kind of quit caring about cars. If it's made before the 60s and it isn't some old like Formula One or Grand Prix car, I don't care.
Really?
No, I just don't care. I don't care. It gets earlier than a Mustang, and I'm like, looks stupid, slow. They bore me. It all bores me. There's no performance. It's all style. And I know things perform well for their time, but it's just, you can't even have fun, slow car fast. They're just not for me.
Okay.
Anyway, this is a time where Mercedes built its reputation on prestige and engineering excellence, but the cars were complex, finicky, and expensive to maintain. Not to mention, kind of ugly. vestiges of a bit too late American design influence, like having a fin tail in the late 60s is just, or mid 60s, just not.
Did they?
Yeah, it ain't it.
Huh.
It ain't it. You can't, even having a fin tail in like 1963. Come on.
Yeah, no, that was behind the times.
You're behind the times.
100%.
The 1960s Mercedes sedans were unquestionably well built for the time, but they were also nightmares, high maintenance, and they were designed more for aristocrats and diplomats than everyday people. They were luxurious, but they were not bulletproof and certainly not for the everyman.
Mm-hmm.
Then came the 70s, where everything changed, and the legendary W1. Jake, do you know what the W stands for in the W123? Of all the chassis designations, W140.
I've never thought about it. No.
It's very simple. I had to look this up because I didn't know either. It stands for wagon, which is in German car.
Right.
So it's like car 123.
You said the car for every man, and I was thinking like Volkswagen, right? That was the original everyman car, the people's car. That
just means
sense.
car.
Okay.
So it's like car 123, car 220. It's like car 140.
That's so much better.
So,
I love
so
it.
less glamorous. It's almost stupid. For the first time, Mercedes engineered a car, the 123, not just for the elite, but for the entire world. It was still a premium machine, but it was built with simplicity, durability, and reliability in mind. It wasn't just a car for executives. It became the car of choice for anyone who valued longevity, durability, and style.
So,
Mr. Producer, you can start throwing some of these pictures up of the 123 as we talk about this.
I have a question that I'd love to pose to you. So at this point in time, what does Mercedes have for its lineup? Right? Like, is there a midsize? Is there a compact?
This was the midsize.
Okay.
So the W123 would have been the midsize. And then above this, you would have had, do you remember that red Mercedes that I had? The S?
Yes.
It would have, like the S class would have been above this.
So
and then you would have had the convertible, like the coupe, like the R129
Was
coupe.
this called an S class? Or what is the W123? Is it
They just went by numbers. So like you would have had 450 SL. This would have been a 300D or a 300,
Okay.
I guess it doesn't have the same. It's not
because if you walk into the dealership and you don't know, is there a full size vehicle larger than this offered at the same time?
It's not like SEC. Yes, the bigger would have been like the S class of its era, but it's not like the modern where it's SEC.
Got it.
It's not. It's not necessarily like that. So then the W123 was, of course, then the first built to last forever car. Something you could drive. A lot of people probably tried, but nobody really succeeded. And this was the first one that did. You could drive this thing into the ground every day on your way to work, but the real legend of it was written elsewhere. That legend was penned in Africa, the Middle East, and parts of Asia, where the 123 became the automotive equivalent of a tank. These cars survived desert heat, monsoon rains, unpaved roads, war zones, and fuel quality that would make a modern German car roll over and die. The diesel versions, particularly the 240D and 300D, were indestructible. I had written on here borderline indestructible, but come on. Stories of these things with 500,000, 750,000, even 1,000,000 miles were not just rare, they were commonplace. If a 123 was even moderately maintained, it would just keep going and going. And it makes me think of this article I wrote for, I think, Panorama a long time ago, where there was a 996 turbo at the time that had reached 500,000 miles. And they did a whole feature on this thing, and they wrote about it, and I took pictures of the rock chips and all this stuff, and everybody was so excited. No one writes stories about the 123 that made it to 1,000,000 miles.
No, because it's not
They just do, as long as they don't rust away. They'll just last forever and ever. And it makes me think of James May driving his across the desert in the Africa special.
Yeah, that's right. You don't need to go into all of the engineering and everything else, but it's like, clearly they were built better and engineered better. Was it like,
that's a 114, so that would have been just before the 123 right there.
Did they have was it heavier gauge metal? Was it different?
Yes. Yep, they had heavier gauge.
Processes?
Everything was over-engineered.
Okay.
I mean, everything was over-engineered, and I guess what would it be? Under-stressed.
Right.
for the level of engineering that went into things.
Interesting.
Basically what it comes down to. All the bushings could blow out and you could just still drive it.
Right.
You know, and things would just rattle around, which is what all the taxis in Africa did. None of them have any bushings, but they're still going.
Still working.
It's you know, rubber is what it is. You know, it's how it goes.
You can't engineer too much of that, but interesting.
Okay. The W123 was a massive, and we'll get into a little bit of this as we go on, what you're asking. The 123 was a massive commercial success when it launched in 1976. It quickly became the best-selling Mercedes of all time, with waiting lists stretching up to a year in some markets. Demand was so high that used W123s often sold for more than new ones. People were willing to wait extra and pay extra just to avoid not getting it right away.
Wow.
And this, you don't really hear about that as much, you know, back then. It seems like a modern phenomenon.
Right. I was going to say, you hear that today with, you know, like when the C8 Corvette came out. I remember used ones were going for much more than, you know, MSRP. But
yes.
Yeah, I certainly didn't think that would have been the case with something like this.
But by the early 80s, they noticed something strange happening. Sales were slowing down drastically. A typical luxury car buyer in that era might trade in their car every 4 to 5 years, lured in by newer models, better technology, or changing styles. But 123 owners were a different breed. Their cars were still running perfectly. There was no tin worm eating them alive, no engine issues forcing costly repairs, no reason to upgrade. The owners simply just didn't need a new car. Fleet buyers, normally a gold mine for repeat businesses, also weren't placing new orders. Their 123s, even after hundreds of thousands of miles, were still in excellent condition. Instead of replacing them, taxi operators simply refreshed them, rebuilt engines, upholstered the seats, repainted panels, and kept the same car on the road. And that is how it is going to this day. Some of those pictures that came up earlier is the one with all the blue cars. That's an original taxi delivery. And those cars are still out there. It's crazy, man. It just is. It's just so crazy. Mercedes executives started to worry. Yeah. You know, I think about the Caprice, like the mid-90s Caprice. That's the only thing that I can think of that came close, because they were the cop cars and they were the yellow taxi. And I think if Americans didn't have the need to feel something new, nobody wants to get into a 40-year-old car in a taxi here.
Right.
But I feel like if we did, those old Caprices could still be bombing around.
Well,
you know, with a small block Chevy. That's what I mean, Crown Vic.
Okay, yeah. Because the Caprice was used for those things. But yeah, the Crown Vic, you're right, it was ubiquitous, and it was just like, yep, that's the utility thing.
That's the closest the Americans have ever come to something like this.
Sure.
A Crown Vic, like the cop car, the Crown Vic taxi cab. That's just because, you know, you get into every Uber that's like a Honda CRV, and that thing is a giant steaming pile. It's rattling. The strut mounts are blown out. That thing is toast. I don't remember the Crown Vics ever being that way. All right, the 123 had been Mercedes's cash cow, but it was proving too self-sustaining. They needed a replacement that could bring back repeat customers. But they also,
how was it a cash cow? Was there that much profit margin in it if they were that well engineered? You know what I mean? Because
it was the best selling. You got to think of it in perspective, right? My 114 was the first newly designed car that was built after the war that was all new. Mm-hmm. So they were struggling. Okay, Mercedes was a struggling company when this car came out. So when this car came out, it blew the doors off in sales. It was the best thing to ever happen to Mercedes. It was just volume. They sold them. You can go on Facebook Marketplace right now. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
Still, they're everywhere. You can buy them all day long. They're still ubiquitous. They needed a replacement that could bring back repeat customers, but they also couldn't afford to screw up their reputation. They really were in a very precarious situation.
This, you talked about, you know, before the era of planned obsolescence. This reminds me of speaking of Drivers Club, a Drivers Club exclusive we did about the Great Light Bulb Conspiracy.
Yes.
Remember that?
I do. That's a good one. Yeah, where the
light bulbs literally just would last for thousands and thousands and millions of hours. They don't need to burn out.
That's right. So what they had to do was make something tankier than a tank and more indestructibly indestructible. Work began in 1977. The idea was simple. Take everything that made the 123 great and push it into the future, right? Simple, no problem. How do you replace what was at the time the best and most reliable saloon car ever made? The answer to these problems was radical over-engineering and the very simple thing, time and money. Time and money. Spend enough time and money on anything, you can make some pretty damn cool shit.
Okay.
Unless you're the government. Mercedes didn't just design components to meet the minimum standard. They exceeded them. Doors weren't just tested to close properly. They were tested to close properly after 500,000 uses. The suspension wasn't just designed to work. It was designed to absorb potholes for decades and hundreds of thousands of miles.
We've seen like modern R&D facilities where they have the thing that like moves the suspension up and down, and that's how they're testing it. I'm curious with the door, do they have, when you go into IKEA and they have the door closure machine where it's just sitting there going back and forth and it just goes, it just opens and closes it like a million times. Did they have that for
I'll let this play
the car?
while we check. Yes.
Because I'm just picturing.
It's like a little hydraulic ram.
Yeah, just the door slammer.
Yeah,
and it's just going for weeks at a time.
Yeah. So this level of obsession led to features that most people would never even notice, like a self-lubricating throttle linkage to prevent wear over time, an asymmetrical dashboard designed to reduce reflections on the windshield, fully enclosed multi-link rear suspension, the first of its kind to
fully
improve.
Enclosed.
Yeah, the car has like a whole thing underneath.
Okay.
An aerodynamic under tray to reduce wind resistance and improve fuel efficiency. Let me see if I include this. I want to just save my spot here and zip ahead. I didn't. Oh, yeah, I did. We'll get there. Okay, I just want to make sure I talk about it. Even the windshield wiper itself was over-engineered. Instead of using a simple two-arm system like every other car,
wiper.
Mercedes designed a single articulating wiper that could clear 86% of the windshield in just one sweep. The body panels were double galvanized, meaning they were coated in zinc to fight rust from inside and out. Critical underbody areas were treated with thick wax coatings, a defense against the harshest winters and road salt. The paint wasn't just sprayed on, it was baked at high temperatures for better adhesion and longevity. Inside, the upholstery wasn't fragile either. The leather or thin fabric was great, and it was MB Tex as a secondary option, a nearly indestructible vinyl that could withstand decades of wear and still look new. All right, so I had to dig into MB Tex a little bit. And honestly, dude, I couldn't find anything.
What is this crazy material?
Officially, it's a high-grade vinyl, but calling it vinyl is like calling 124 just a car. This stuff is unnatural. Look at this video, Jake.
Oh, wow.
They used to roll the car over a bunch of times. It's just, the stuff is unnaturally durable. It doesn't crack, fade, or wear down like real leather.
Well, even vinyl of that era, or any car of that era, the vinyl
cracks and dries out.
Yeah. This,
in fact,
I don't know why.
Most 124s and 123s with MB Tech still have perfect seats decades later, while leather ones crack like an old baseball glove left in the sun. What's actually in MB text? Nobody knows. Science may have an answer, but we're not sure we want to hear it. It's probably forged in the same facility that made Cold War gas mask and space shuttle insulation. Spill a gallon of coffee on it? No problem. Drop a lit cigarette? No problem. Hate detailing? The man even says you can use a dish soap and a Brillo pad to clean it. Or fuck it, do nothing. Drive around for 40 years without ever conditioning it, and it will look like a day it left the showroom. Truth be told, MB Tex is made of bonding a tough polyester fabric to layers of PVC. Literally all we know. That's it.
Okay, sure.
PVC is like just plastic, like credit cards, pipes, whatever.
I used to know PVC.
Yeah, I had it here, but it was a word I didn't know how to pronounce, so I took it out. They emboss it with a leather-like texture and cure it for maximum durability. And if the legends are true, each seat is blessed by a German priest to ensure it remains impervious to aging, regret, and the sins of its owners.
I love it. Okay.
The W124 didn't just need to be over-engineered, it needed to be timeless. If it was going to last forever, Jake, it needed to look good too. Enter Bruno Sacco, legendary design chief, a man who didn't chase trends or gimmicks. Sacco believed in vertical affinity, meaning that every Mercedes should look like it belonged to the same lineage. Elegant, restrained, unmistakably German, unmistakably Mercedes. And you can look at the cars, they all fit. If you look at like a 190E,
Yeah.
the S-Class, this thing, they all look like they're from the same family. And if you look back, you can see the trend. I think
when did they go to the weird quad headlight thing in like 2000?
late 90s. Yeah, late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
It sucks because I would love to own some of those cars like an E55 AMG, but they have this stupid quad headlight thing.
I know.
And I don't like it.
Good. No.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. The 124 was a product of his philosophy: clean lines, perfect proportions, and a shape dictated by aerodynamics, not just fashion. Now, this car was insanely aerodynamic, Jake, which is
bizarre because it looks like a brick.
It's a brick. It has a drag coefficient of 0.28, which I don't know what that number means. I don't care. But I have some comparisons here in a second.
Okay. Yeah.
The 124 was one of the most aerodynamic sedans of its time, slicing through the air more efficiently than many sports cars. For example, Ford Sierra, CD of 0.34, the Pontiac Firebird Trans Am, 0.32, and even the Porsche 911 struggled with 0.39 and 0.41.
Really?
It's just 0.28, dude. It's like 30% better than a 911. It wasn't just about the looks. It was about speed and stability on the Autobahn. Even the taillights were a product of this obsessive engineering. Unlike conventional flat lenses that would get caked in dirt and snow, the 124's ribbed taillight design was wind tunnel tested to stay clean by channeling airflow over them. A small detail? Maybe. But it was that kind of thoughtful innovation that defined Mercedes during Sacco's reign. And what a reign it was. Sacco wasn't just responsible for the 124. He designed some of the most iconic Mercedes of all time, including the R129 SL, the 126 S-Class, and the W201 190E, which went on to become a very famous DTM car and one of the best looking cars ever made in Evo trim.
So the 124 is not the car that was the 190E.
No, it's the step up from that. It's the
bigger one. The E is
yes.
Right?
Yes, it's in the middle.
Okay.
The 190, the E,
the compact. Yeah.
Yep, the 300, and then you have the like the big boys, the S-Class. Their nomenclature was not good.
Yeah, it's
but
bizarre.
You could it was basically engine displacement.
But
and that
they had to have
E,
engine crossover.
I think E mean
too.
like injection. I think is what E mean. It meant fuel injection.
Which
D
doesn't make
meant,
any sense. Like, what
it's
is
probably
the
German.
size of the vehicle? No, I know that makes sense, but like
you just look at it and go, "That's bigger." I don't know.
I do have a serious question or point to ponder with you. You talk about the details like the taillight design, which is awesome. That's really cool to know that. But if you're an auto manufacturer and these are things that like that taillight design hadn't been done before, and it wasn't like a major milestone or like key, benchmark that they needed to hit, like what is the culture at the time where you say just
the culture is the best or nothing?
Right. But here's my point. You're an engineer and you just happen to come up with this. Why were you pushed to come up with this? You know what I mean? It's solutions to problems that hadn't necessarily been identified. So my question is, how was it that these things got kind of bundled into this vehicle when it
to be fair, the taillight design was a carryover from the 123 to had the same thing. So it was a design carryover. But I think the aerodynamics carrying it over the taillights to remove.
Yeah. It just seems like there was so much innovation kind of built in, or just like high benchmarks of quality and everything else. Like they just kept going. They kept pushing.
Again, I think this is a product of having to beat out the 123. It was just, dude, it was that good. It was that.
Is this the car that they claim?
Look in context, Jake. What else are you driving at the time? A Bavaria? Like a BMW Bavaria? Or like...
God
it's not
forbid
even close.
2002?
Fuck, what a piece of shit. in comparison to like a 190E or something.
I have
Granted,
to
that's
agree
a
with
little
you
bit
on
earlier.
that. Yeah, no,
So
it's
in
interesting.
comparison, E30, 190E, 19 or E28 compared to a 124, the E28 just doesn't.
That actually reinforces my question, though. The bottom question is, why did they feel the need to bake all of these things into the vehicle?
I think it's because it was their corporate language at the time,
Yeah.
and it was what everybody expected. It's this: we build indestructible, we build the best cars, we build the best cars in the world. And obviously that shifted in the 90s and went to we build luxury cars, right? I mean, everything started to change due to the economy and a few other different things, but this car truly is the last
That is an
indestructible.
interesting distinction, because I always thought Mercedes was just like the luxury car above all else. But you're saying these weren't necessarily for luxury; it was just for quality, and that is a
Well, quality
distinction.
is luxury, is it
But
not?
it's a distinction in the way I would think about it. Quality is, it's durable. Luxury goods aren't necessarily durable, right?
So I think we're conflating luxury as different things, right?
Sure.
Even some of their marketing campaigns were not necessarily about luxury. It was about getting there. Hey, Mr. Producer, play the ad. Or I'll do it just because I know exactly what I want. Don't worry
But
about it.
you're right, because you think of luxury as like creature comforts, right?
Let me show
And
you
it's not
something.
necessarily that.
I want to show you something. This is a product of its time. That's the wrong one. Here we go.
This Mercedes-Benz was traveling on a highway outside Melbourne at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday evening. Inside were the Nice family, husband, wife, and 2 teenagers on the way to their farm. As they crested a hill, another car on the wrong side of the road and traveling at high speed in a 100-kilometer zone speared into the Mercedes. In all, 120 safety features are built into every Mercedes-Benz. And in that split second of the accident, many of them saved the family's lives. The driver's pedals dropped to the floor away from his feet. The electronic seatbelt pre-tensioning device pressed the occupants deep into their seats. And despite the horrifying impact, the Mercedes safety passenger cell did not collapse. Survival space remained intact. This is the Nice family. To them, a Mercedes-Benz is not a luxury.
Engineered like no other car. It wasn't about. I think the misnomer is that it was luxury. And this is a great point that you bring up, Jake, and it's worth thinking about. Is there's different ways of describing luxury.
Right.
You know, the base definition of luxury is something that you don't need to have. Right? That is what a luxury is. In that way, it is a luxury car. But I don't think it's luxury in the way of walking into a ballroom and seeing a crystal chandelier and gilded. It's not a that's the word I'm looking for. It's not a gilded vehicle.
Exactly. It's not that everything is like handcrafted burled walnut just for the sake of the finishes.
No, it's engineering.
It's
It's engineering, and that's what costs the money. And I don't know. There's elements of that in Mercedes today when you look at them. It's not necessarily ostentatious, other than the stupid badge on the front of the car.
That lights up.
Good freaking Lord.
It lights up, mind you.
Oh my God, it's so bad. But even if you get into the 2000s, some of the S-Class stuff, the big, really expensive cars, they're just black cars.
Yeah.
The interiors are generally pretty simple, and there's a lot of engineering there. Okay, let's get back to it. By the time the 124 arrived in 1904, it was clear this wasn't just another luxury sedan. It was a statement. It had the precision of German engineering, the restraint of old world Mercedes design, and an engine lineup that covered everything from bulletproof diesels to butter smooth inline sixes. And there's something else that we put in this car. But Mercedes had a problem. And what was that problem, Jake? It was Aufrecht, Melcher, and Grossepach, which means what?
Something and bigness.
AG.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
At the time, AMG was still just a group of maniacs in Aufterblock, stuffing absurd engines into Mercedes sedans. And when they got their hands on the 124, they did exactly what you'd expect. They shoved in a 6-liter V8, cranked it to nearly 400 horsepower, and let it loose.
Yeah.
It was Car and Driver. It was in Car and Driver in their December 1986 issue, and they first called it the Hammer, describing it as, quote, as subtle as a hammer. which is where the name came from. And it stuck, because what else do you call a four-door Mercedes that could outrun a Testarossa on its way to a school play with the whole family? AMG did not come up with the name, but they sure as hell leaned into it. It was also ludicrously expensive, terrifyingly fast, and came with exactly 0 factory support because Mercedes wanted nothing to do with AMG's shenanigans or their science experiment. How expensive, you ask? What do you think this thing cost, Jake? Let's just go with today's dollars because it's easier to conceive.
Right.
Look at that wagon. Look at that thing.
That's kind of cool. That's okay, so in today's dollars,
yes.
What is it? Like $150,000?
The conversion alone was priced at $125,000. And then you add the base Mercedes 300E's $39,000 sticker price, and the total came to a hefty $164,000.
Wow.
Adjusted for inflation, that's $450,000.
That was at the time?
$450,000.
I was like, okay, I'm close. No, that was at the time.
Naturally, some point, I hope those numbers are right. I'm bad at math. Naturally, at some point, someone at Mercedes looked at what AMG done and thought, we should do, sorry, hold on. We should do that, but fit the warranty. So they built the 500E, a factory-sanctioned Autobahn battering ram with a 5-liter V8, flared fenders, and the kind of presence that made flare-less, V8-less, stuck with a black and tan interior BMW M5 drivers reevaluate their life choices. But here's the catch.
And
Mercedes
now you are
couldn't build it
a little bit too. So.
Oh, am I? Let me
just recently we got excited because AMG. We're good.
Yeah. Their own factory wasn't set up for all the modifications that the car needed, and they couldn't build the thing. So naturally, they called their neighbor, Porsche.
Yeah.
Who at the time was so broke, they were taking odd jobs like a college kid between semesters.
I like that.
The result? The 500E was assembled on the same production line as the legendary 959 in Zuffenhausen. And it was a logistical
that is crazy
disaster. They shipped it to Porsche, who then widened the track, stuffed in the V8, and reworked the suspension. Then they sent it back to Mercedes for painting. Then it went back to Porsche for final assembly. Then it returned to Mercedes for quality control. This back and forth nonsense meant it took 18 days to build a car, which is exactly what happens when you ask two Germans to collaborate on something.
Yeah, but we must do the inspection, yeah. Are
you sure Hans torqued that bolt properly? The result, 322 horsepower and 0 to 60 in just over 5 seconds. Autobahn supremacy. It's no hammer, but the 500E was quite a bit cheaper. In the United States, the car first came available as a 1992 model with a retail price of $81,000, twice the cost of a 300. Adjusted for inflation, that's roughly $180,000 today. And yet, for all its greatness, the 124 marked the end of an era.
Can you stay on this picture? And this is not related to just this car specifically, but I realized
you're looking at the assembly line, aren't you?
No, I realized styling-wise what has bugged me about this generation of Mercedes, right?
Sure.
So what year around is this? This is 80?
Like 80, this is a 500E. So.
Okay, so there is no chrome on this car except for the grille. And this is very indicative of Mercedes in this entire era. Is like every other vehicle, they went away from big chrome and blacked out trim now. Think of 911s as well, right? SCs went.
Pull up that AMG Hammer photo, Mr. Producer. There's a photo of the Hammer with
and that's why the Hammer in my mind looks so good. And it's not a Mercedes; it is an AMG. Is because it has the blacked out grille. I don't know what it is about Mercedes at that time, but everything had the chrome grille, despite no chrome anywhere else. And for
look at that. Look at the B pillar, Jake.
Look at the what?
B pillar. The B pillar.
Yeah, so that is amazing.
God, this thing is so good looking. Gosh,
you mean there is no B pillar. You mean
there isn't one.
Yeah,
the lack of one. Sorry, the B pillar area. But look, also, so the grill is badged, or the grill is blacked out,
and there's
also
no big
hood ornament.
Yes, I hate hood ornaments.
The chrome hood ornament.
Hood ornaments are for a luxury vehicle, and luxury meaning what did we say? Gilded. A luxury
Yes.
seems like a gilded item. It is not performance. It's not. It's. I don't. That is. I guess I'm really finding out what I don't like about the way Mercedes, many of them look. It's the grill
But this,
and the
you're
hood
into
ornament.
this. You're into this.
That
car.
I like. Yes.
All right. Well, you're fine. That's personal opinion. Yeah, I get it. People paint them.
No, I just
They
and
do
I'd
it.
never really figured that
Some
out.
cars
Put my finger on it.
had
Right.
chrome mirrors, like side
Sure.
mirrors, stuff like that. But I understand. I see what you mean.
Anyways, all
I'll
right.
grant you that.
So
Valid.
took a very long time to build the 500e,
Yes.
but there it is.
By the mid-1990s, things were changing. Mercedes, like every other car company, was being forced to cut costs. The 124 and the 140 were the last Benzes built without accountants in the room. Before cost cutting, plastic engine bays, and fragile electronics started infecting luxury sedans. It was a machine designed by engineers, not marketers. Where are we at for time? Oh, great. Not marketers. Where am I? Lost my spot. Fueled by the impossible task of, that's my ADD right there.
That's
Fueled
fine.
by the impossible task of outdoing the 123, a car so reliable it was actively hurting Mercedes sales. The result was a rolling monument to over-engineering, where every component, every hinge, every switch, every bolt was designed to function flawlessly, not for years, but decades. And let's not forget, this was built in the tail end of the Cold War. And that isn't just background noise. It had to have shaped the culture of how companies like Mercedes thought about longevity and resilience, even if it was just lurking in their subconscious. Mercedes engineers weren't just thinking about daily commutes. In the back of their minds, a little part of me imagines they were probably wondering, what if the world actually ends? Will this car start? If the nukes dropped, they wanted to be damn sure they could fire up their inline six and drive right out of Stuttgartian rubble. Even today, nearly 40 years later, you can still find these things crossing continents, being used as taxis or serving as daily drivers, because they were built to never stop working. So, if you own one, take the moment to appreciate what you have. You don't just own a car, you own a piece of automotive history.
I love it. I do think, too, maybe it wasn't just the threat of the apocalypse, but perhaps there's some type of pridefulness of like Western and, capitalistic societies can do this better. And we're going to show that we can do this so much better.
Yeah, I was just making the point that there's no way that the Berlin Wall and stuff is even stamped made in West Germany. They had pride.
Exactly.
And you look at any wheel, any part, anything, any widget, if it's aluminum and it was cast in West Germany, there had to have been some sort of ingrained and I don't know what happened to Germany, but there used to be this sense of pride in engineering. You always thought like anything German was good. Like think about Zeiss or Leica or is Hasselblad made in Germany?
Yes, and my Wusthof knives downstairs.
Whatever. Yeah. There was this thing that when we were growing up, and I bet if I went and like talked to any teenager today about German engineering, they would go, "What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, who cares?" What?
But back then, when I was like 14, 15, 16, the Germans just made it. The Germans just made it better. It was better and probably more angry. It was.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about OnX, Jake.
Yes.
Speaking of things that are better.
Yes, if you're looking
for one more thing before you get into this.
Angry for some reason. I was like, what? No, you won't be angry because you won't be lost. Okay.
One thing.
What were you going to say? Yes.
Have I sold you yet on 24? Are you sold? Are you interested in it? Did I sell you on craftsmanship as a desirable
Here's what I like
facet
that
of the
I think
car?
we've established, and I'd like to clarify this. I think the concept of capital L luxury versus lowercase l luxury is a really cool distinction to be aware of, right?
Yeah.
That's what I do like that came out of this.
Yeah.
I don't like chrome grills and hood ornaments.
Jake, just buy a $4 can of spray paint and stop being such a moron. Man.
All right, if you're looking for the best app for navigating your nesting adventure, look no further than onX Off-Road. With over 750,000 miles of trails and comprehensive offline maps, you can explore without worrying about cell service, and the app features trail ratings, detailed information, and a Discover tool to help you find trails near you. onX Off-Road also includes public and private land boundaries, so you'll know where you can legally off-road and camp. Plan trips with ease using the route builder and share your adventure with friends. With features like route tracking, waypoint marking, and real-time updates, you're equipped for any challenge, including enunciating this advertisement. Start your next adventure with confidence. Try Onyx Off-Road free for 7 days.
Awesome. And there's Onyx stuff going on in the background that I'm really excited to share.
Yes,
can't.
I know.
But can't. Why do you think, Jake, BMW has far more, and I think that there's one thing, but I'm going to see what you say too. Between BMW and Mercedes, like when you look at like an E28 or an E30, and you look at the 124 and the 190, kind of the two cars of this period of time, why does the BMW have so much more aftermarket support? Engines, lowering springs, chips, like it's off the charts in comparison.
I have an honest, and this is an honest answer that you may or may not like, but it is the demographic of buyer.
I think that's a wrong. That's a false flag. I don't think that's true, because I think that both the same types of people, which were yuppie professionals, were both buying them.
Sure, but if you're talking about aftermarket and performance and things like that, I mean, it wasn't necessarily at the time. Like when they were bought new, is that what you're saying? You could have gone out and bought all these aftermarket
No, I suppose
parts?
not.
No,
let's think of
it
it
today, right? So of course there's more aftermarket support for the BMW stuff because it's seen as a more enthusiast driver focused machine.
Why? There's one reason.
Okay.
Why? I'm just asking you. Why though? Why is it seen as the more enthusiast based car? Why?
It was, I think, the demographics of the purchaser, but what is that based on as well, right? And so it's based on, I guess, the values of what the brand stood for at the time or how they were marketed, perhaps.
I think it is because they never made manual transmissions available.
It's a big part of it.
In the majority of these cars. You could
get
the 190, you get the 190 16 valve in a manual, which was a dog leg. Cool, right? Neat. It was notchy. But you couldn't get you could in Europe, I'm sure, but you weren't walking into the dealership and ordering a manual transmission W124. You just weren't. And you weren't, and if you got one in a 123, it was probably some shitty 4-speed. And if you got one, if you were lucky, and you got one out of like a R129 that was a 5-speed, it just wasn't happening. And to say maybe you're also right, maybe it's because Mercedes knew that the person that was buying the car didn't want it.
Exactly. Because,
and I think,
because it's well, in this case, lowercase l, luxury, right? This was an automatic transmission. This is back when it was thought of as your standard versus automatic transmission. This was the feature. This was an upgrade. This was the luxury item that the car should have. In a car that they designed aerodynamic taillights that self-clean themselves and wipers on every surface, including the headlights, of course there was going to be the automatic transmission. It would have been a step backwards and bizarre to have a manual shifting transmission in a car that is so well and forward engineered, that everything is so, and it's not just engineering from the perspective of quality, it's from the perspective of feature sets.
Don't forget about this. This is another one. What happened at Le Mans in 1955?
Was that the giant crash?
It was, and Mercedes left motorsport. I think that's it, dude. I think that's what it boils down to. Mercedes leaves motorsport. BMW doesn't leave motorsport. Mercedes leaves motorsport and shifts their focus into non-enthusiast stuff, really.
Yeah, that's, I'm sure, a huge factor.
So then, as a buyer, you don't identify with Mercedes as needing a manual transmission or anything like that. So obviously they ended up, coming back in the late 80s and stuff like that. There are no race car variants of the 124, really. They just didn't do it. 190E, they did. But 123, a little bit of Dakar, a little bit of safari racing.
But that's not a factory-backed, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think that might have
That's privateers. I think you're right.
A lot to do with it. I want to ask you about your mishap or whatever's going on. But before I do, tell me about Nokian and Petrolbox.
Yes. Well, Nokian tires, they are the actual inventor of the winter tire, which is timely to talk about because that's exactly what is happening with the Macan. Is just winter is the answer, period. It is bitter cold here, and things don't like to be operated in the cold, especially tires that are not meant for it, which is why when you're looking at Nokian, the inventor of the Hakapolita 90 years ago, Hakapolita.
Hakapolita sounds like
That's the
it's like a
town
library.
that they're
It's
made
a library of tires.
The
It's a library of
Hakapolita.
tires.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
it's
love
where
it.
it's like, that's what the tire shops are called in Sweden.
Well, if they are, they certainly, of course, are going to have Nokian tires with cutting-edge technology. We're both failing at enunciating today.
Yes, that's how it goes.
Honed at the world's toughest test tracks north of the Arctic Circle in the most extreme conditions. They have advanced innovations such as the cutting-edge aramid sidewalls made from the same fibers used in bulletproof vests to deliver extreme durability, and they also come with the pothole protection warranty. If a road hazard dangers your tire beyond repair, Nokian will replace it for free. In addition,
And you can shoot your gun at the tires and keep driving.
I think we should try that. Probably not advised or covered
Not advised.
under the repair, but
You know what we could do
What?
as a test? Maybe
Oh boy. Oh boy.
we could. Well, we're certainly not going to get any other manufacturers to do this, but maybe
Oh,
we could
no.
go get used tires
Uh-huh.
from like a junkyard, just
Uh-huh.
whatever tires. We can pick
Uh-huh.
a brand, and then we could get a bunch of brand new Nokians, and we can see which brand has the least amount of penetration if we shoot it with a 223 round.
Uh-huh.
The aramid wall tire,
Uh-huh.
or
I mean, it seems like it should be pretty obvious, right? 100%.
we got
And if we're
Can we
not
do that?
satisfied, we can return them after 30 days of shooting at them. Because with the 30-day satisfaction guarantee, you can drive on them for a month. Probably not shoot at them for a month, but you can drive
If
on
they
them
get-
for a month.
cut.
What if you're driving on them and you get caught in the middle of like a drive-by shooting though?
Yeah, you're in Chicago, and
Yeah.
these are the tires for you if you live in Chicago, because they'll replace them if they
Man.
get shot out.
Joking
None of this is
aside,
true.
joking aside, it is amazing that they do have a full month-long satisfaction guarantee. If you're not convinced, you can return your tires for a full refund from the manufacturer. It's amazing. Learn more and find your set of studded or non-studded winter tires at nokiantires.com/winterlegend.
I haven't been driving the Golf with snow tires. I've been driving the Volvo.
And
It's not as
not the
good.
same, is it? No.
They have some Michelin. They're not like crazy tires, but they're like they're supposed to be good in snow. They're just not.
Not as good. Of course not.
They're
No.
just not.
You know what is good though is Petrolbox, their monthly service made specifically for the automotive enthusiast. Each month they carefully select the items, including tools, detailing supplies, apparel, garage gear, stickers, and publications to be sent right to your doorstep. It's a curated selection, of latest and greatest gear in the industry. You have 2 different levels of subscription to choose from: Petrolbox Basic, which is less than $20 a month, and the Petrolbox Premium, which gets you even more gear for $39.95 a month. Check them out at mypetrolbox.com. And you can always use the code Overcrest at checkout.
Send it to somebody for their birthday.
Absolutely.
Sign up. Send it to them for their birthday. It would be great. All right, Mr. Producer, we have a clip that has been uploaded of something wrong with.
Oh, yeah. Oh, pressurized. Okay.
Dude,
So,
what?
does that mean the PCV valve?
It's me after the Taco Bell gift certificate.
The car has flatulence. So much.
What? That's your 9.
That's the 9 Porsche, the Macan. I can't talk.
Wait, that's the Macan?
That's the Macan, dude.
Oh no!
Yeah.
I thought it was the 951.
No.
Oh no!
95B,
It's far more complicated.
Actually, 100% it is. So I figured it out. It actually is not totally terrible. The PCV valves, positive crankcase ventilation, were literally frozen shut for moisture and weren't able to release pressure. So it's literally
'Cause
just
it's-
all of your crankcase pressure was just building up until I had to hold the cap down because it was sitting there just farting at me. And the reason I found the problem even is we're driving, and of course that robs power and feels weird, and because then it is related somehow to the vacuum system and not being able to hold full boost too, I told you about.
Yep.
So, but all of a sudden this happened twice now. Once I thought the oil fill cap was just like loose and rattled off because there was oil everywhere in the engine bay. And Nikki was like, "Oh yeah, the add oil light came on." I was like, "Oh, okay." So I looked and I was like, "Oh, weird. I must not have tightened it or it came loose." I was like,
Yeah.
"Do I need to replace it?" Like I'm trying to see if it actually fits well. I was like,
There's a little
"Seems
seal
tight."
on the underside of the
Yeah,
cap.
yep. No, it all seemed good. So I topped it off. It's fine. And then we're driving and all of a sudden it goes, it's not just like, oh, add oil. It's like oil min level, like red notice. I love Porsche because at least this generation or like era, you have yellow warnings, which is like you can still go, but you should address it. And then you have red warnings. Doesn't matter what system it is, it's either yellow or red. And so this
know
one
what new
came
cars
up
have done?
red. What?
New cars have lulled us into a sense of complacency when it comes to car maintenance. Because I remember when I was a kid and I would be with Grandpa, every time he got gas, he would get out of the car,
Check
open
the
the
oil.
hood, and check the oil.
Okay.
We don't do that anymore, dude.
Do you know why we don't do that, Chris?
Because your thing has a little thing
No.
that says oil red
Because
warning.
most vehicles built after 2015 don't even have a dipstick. I'm not joking.
That is true.
I'm not joking.
That is true. My Golf R has a dipstick. My 2005 Mercedes didn't have a dipstick. You have to start
Yes.
the car, and it would be
Wait
like
for it to warm up because there's all
measuring
these
oil.
parameters. Yep.
Yeah,
It has
it would
to
know
be
if it was
warm,
cold or hot.
It has to be at idle, level, and stopped. And it's so infuriating. Yeah. Audis, most do not have dipsticks anymore. It's Porsche don't have dipsticks anymore. It's so frustrating. So of course,
Take it to the dealer, Jake. Take
Right,
it to the dealer.
right.
What are you
And
doing?
I was just having this conversation.
You numbskull.
I was having this conversation with my dad. He's like, "Why don't they do that?" There must have been some legal.
No, they want no.
You don't
They
want
want
so?
you to go to the dealer.
Okay.
They
just
want
wanna make
every.
it stupid proof, and I don't know.
They want you to go
It's
out.
So
go.
dumb.
There's no dipstick. What do I do? All
Yeah.
right, I'll just take it to the shop.
Anyway,
They don't want you doing it. You're too stupid.
So red light came on. That
Red
like low oil, meaning
like pull the car over. Stop driving.
Threw it in neutral, turned it off, and drifted to the side of the road.
What was your state of mind at that point?
Crap. Like where? Yeah, just crap. Crap. And also, it is very cold outside, and I have Nikki and the kid with me. This was like our Sunday drive. We're gonna go.
So
get
here's
breakfast.
a question for you: how responsible are you? Because you're supposed to have
I had
hats,
a blanket
gloves,
in the car,
blanket.
I had a jacket, and
Yeah.
I had more oil in the car with me.
Yeah.
Always.
Yes.
So
Good man.
I pop the hood and I see oil everywhere. And I'm thinking there's some hose that broke or line
blew off or something.
Yeah, because I look at the cap and it's still tight. And then I'm looking and it's bubbling. There's little oil bubbles from around the seal of the oil cap. Like it was so high pressured that it was shooting it past the seal. It didn't pop it off or anything.
I'm amazed that the rest of the PCV system was able to handle this pressure.
The pressure, I know.
Of whatever boost you're pumping into the crank.
Because it is very comical just hearing how much that thing was farting at me.
That's a lot of pressure.
That was
like
a ton of pressure.
Like
so,
many PSIs.
Yes. So here's what's bizarre to me, because the reason I took that video is I texted it to my friend who is a Porsche mechanic at the dealership. And I was like, dude, what is this? I'm assuming PCV valve. He goes, yeah, but that's bizarre because there's two of them, one on each bank. It's a redundant system. He goes, I can't believe both would have failed. But
they did.
They did, and it wasn't even fail, like they didn't break. It was the fact that they froze.
Well, you get moisture in there, right?
Yeah.
Anytime you clean out like a PCV, the little UFO on the top of the valve that lets it in or out, the diaphragm, it's always milky.
Yes.
It's always this milky
100%.
substance because
And
there's
so
moisture in there.
They froze shut. And so I got home. You can, luckily with these, you can service them. You're not supposed to, but you can service them. You can just take the cap off and there's little diaphragms.
Put them in the microwave.
Well, the one did have a tear on it, and they were both like very, very wet and gummy. And so I cleaned them. I went back, put it back together, and it's like, okay, it's actually venting correctly now. But I ordered the new diaphragms, which I hate.
How much are they?
That I ordered them. They're dirt cheap. I ordered it on Amazon for like $5 because I could get them overnighted then.
What's the brand?
I looked it up. It's actually like a brand that people like. It's not an OEM brand. It's supposed to be a better like replacement than the Porsche diaphragm. Anyways,
it's probably the same one that's on the Golf, but you just have two of them.
It's
so this is like a universal part.
it's designed weird because I did think that too. I was like, oh, can I just get the Volkswagen out? The actual piece, because they also call it an air oil separator. It's all one unit where it's supposed to also drain the oil back in rather than just venting it all. So it is made for the exact positioning of it. But the actual diaphragm built into the whole thing is, of course, generic across the board.
Yeah.
So that's what happened, and I'll be replacing that, and still haven't replaced the backup camera. I don't know if I mentioned that froze or went out or something, and who knows what else is going on with that stupid.
Do you have
modern
mirrors
car.
on the car?
I do have mirrors, luckily.
Okay.
Yes, on both sides.
You can use those.
And a rear view. So
I still defer to using the mirror.
I do too.
I can see better. I can look at the side of the whole side of the car.
It's for Nikki, so I want to have the camera operational.
Yeah, Jessie likes that stuff too, and she likes the little blind spot monitor and all these.
I don't do that. I don't want that thing blinking at me. That's dumb. So, anyways, yes, if you have flagellants coming from your Porsche engine, check the PCV valves.
I would think that there's a windage tray underneath that cap too.
The oil cap itself?
No, you open up the oil cap and there's a cover that goes over the top of the cams.
Yeah.
To keep all the oil from spraying all over the place.
Actually, it doesn't. When you pop that open, you literally see
just the cam?
chain. No, it's the front. So
it's the chain.
The chain.
Okay.
Double row chain, just right. Like I could just put my finger in the chain. It's right there. It's bizarre.
Nice. Well, don't do that. All right, guys. I don't know what we're doing next week. I've got a road trip to do.
Oh, you're on the road. That's right.
Yep.
Did we even allude to why we told the story of this car?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to buy one of these.
And on that note,
I'm going to buy one. I'm flying out Thursday and picking the car up. And the first thing I'm doing is heading over and putting H&R springs and brand new shocks in the car. So I'm going to lower it immediately. I don't want to be embarrassed all the way home. And then I'm going to hang out for a little bit and then head home.
I love it.
It should be a good trip. And maybe we can talk about that next week, the trip home. And we'll see how things go.
I do have a history story I'm working on that should be really fun as well for perhaps the following week then.
All right. Sounds good. Take care of yourself, man. You be good.
You too.
All right. Take care. That was weird. All right.
Yep, that definitely was. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next week.
Take care.
There we go. That's how we do it.